CNET ready back there? The board ready? Yes, no, maybe? All right, I'm going to call the Halfmoon Township Board of Supervisors meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Alrighty. Before we go forward with the agenda, Roseanne, you had something you wanted to amend the agenda with?
Well, I can now or later.
Well, if we do it now, it'll be done.
All right. Mr. Chair, I would like to make a motion to amend the meeting agenda by incorporating DEI under public comments, therefore removing it from its separate line item.
You making a motion to that effect?
I am making that motion.
Do I hear a second?
Is that just for this meeting?
I was making a motion to change the agenda from here on.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion by the board?
We're putting it under public comments as opposed to having a separate item up like after or before public comments?
That's the motion as I understand it. Any other discussion by the board? Call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Let it be noted that Ms. Arnold voted no. Any others, yes. Okay. This meeting is being recorded live for the CNET YouTube channel. And,
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
I also have an agenda change.
okay,
I would like to propose that we pull agenda item number 12 from this particular meeting because it's not time critical, and Amy Smith is our open space administrator, and she's not able to attend tonight, and she's been
Okay.
following up on several of the issues.
all right, so that's your motion?
Yes.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I have a, go ahead. Before we can have discussion, there has to be.
I hear a second. For the sake of discussion, I'll second it. Okay.
There's part of that that includes the refund.
Yeah, that's been legally told to us that we can't do it, so
Right,
that's
so-
not, that's a non-issue.
Well, but I think it's a matter of discussion as to whether it's a non-issue, and I do agree with you, by the way, that it's not something that we would make a motion on or vote on, because we've been advised that that's not something we can do.
Correct.
Okay.
Any other discussion by the board?
So we're gonna so to clarify, we're gonna table that agenda item, right?
Yeah, or defer till a later meeting.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Okay. Next up, public comments. Is anybody here?
Okay, sorry.
Oh,
sorry.
you got something you want to
No,
mention?
no. Sorry.
Okay. Anybody here have anything they want to talk about that's on the agenda or off the agenda except for public hearing stuff? If it's something that's on the public hearing, you will have time at time of the public hearing to comment on those particular items. Yes.
Since DEI has been removed from the agenda, is this the appropriate time?
Yeah,
Okay.
you got the floor. Well, it's not been removed, it's been moved.
No, it's been removed from the agenda and placed in public
It's
comments.
under public comments.
My name is Virginia Squire, and I'm a resident of the township, and I live on LaVille Road. I had a statement prepared tonight, but in light of Roseanne's proposal to the board, I would just like to say that it saddens me that this board is saying now that diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging are things that you do not value. Roseanne, when you were appointed for your position, I went back and I read all the minutes, and you said that it was very important to you that you improve relationships with other townships. Since this board has been, in the past year, our relationship with other townships has tanked. I attend meetings all over Center County, and people say to me, what the hell is going on in Halfmoon Township? This is basically your fault, Ron and Roseanne. Tonight is the last night of Hanukkah, the Jewish Festival of Lights. And during this turbulent time, I thought it would be nice to reflect on the many cultures and religions that have celebrations during this time of year. There's the Feast of St. Nicholas, Immaculate Conception Day, Our Lady of Guadalupe Day, the winter solstice, Christmas Day, Boxing Day, Kwanzaa, and New Year's Eve. And what I had planned on saying to this board was that I wished everyone a wonderful holiday season, and that I hoped we would all take this moment to pause and work harder to listen to each other, to practice kindness, and embrace those whose beliefs are different from our own. But this board has clearly made it a signal that you are not interested in doing that, starting with the fire department, starting with the library, starting with this move. I would like to congratulate most of you for the small minds that you have.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? In the back there next to Mr. Merritt. I just saw hair, so.
What?
I said I just saw hair back there.
Oh, okay. Hang on a second. I'm Sharon Ravancic. I'm the library rep to Halfmoon Township for just a few more days. So I thought it was important, and I really wanted to get up here and give and really make a plea that I hope that future boards consider rejoining the Articles of Agreement so that Halfmoon Township can fully fund SCLO Library. Public libraries provide access to a world of knowledge, a lifelong learning opportunities, they offer them to all, digital resources and technology. They cultivate a love of reading, because where else do you go? And I don't know anything, for instance, about airplanes, honestly. But I can go there and pull out a book about airplanes and just casually read about them. They offer community engagement and social connection for people who are isolated in the community rooms, from everything from needlepoint to gaming for teenagers who are frequently lost. You know, little kids have sports, parent organized activities, but teenagers, I think, frequently get lost in that. They don't have, if they don't play a sport, they don't have a club. But at the public library at SCLO, they can go on Fridays, they can game, they can play Go, they can do anime, there's manga things, and also there's cost-effective resource access for people who can't afford Wi-Fi, access to academic journals, subscription-based databases, so, like for instance, on a personal level, I'm starting to research my family in Japan. That's not easy to do from here, and especially when I don't really speak Japanese that well. I mean, I can get by on some of it, but not like that. And the benefits of a library extend far beyond the confines of its physical space. It promotes knowledge, growth, empowerment, and community engagement. And I would really hope that Halfmoon Township sets an example that shows that we cherish and supports public libraries. And I think we all saw that last year about this time when this room was packed full of library supporters. I really think there was only like one person that was maybe unsure, and he came just to see what it was all about. A lot of emails I got personally were in support of the library, and so I would really hope that future boards really consider supporting SCLO to its fullest, to make everybody have an equal playing field when it comes to learning and intellectual freedom. And that's, I guess, my final say as a library representative here. But as a resident, now I will say that I was approached, somebody couldn't fulfill their term, and I was approached, I guess maybe because I have a library degree. So I said yes. I did my best, but I do have to say that as a volunteer to the board, I felt kind of marginalized and pushed around, and I don't feel that somebody who volunteers their time from this community, I think there could be disagreements. I think there can be room for open and honest conversations that are polite and respectful. I don't feel that I should have received some of the emails I received. I don't feel that when the meeting was held last year, I really think I should have received at least the courtesy of a phone call or email. And so that's as a resident. Please do not punish SCLO by me saying that. And finally, I really would implore anybody who volunteers for Halfmoon Township, whether it's zoning, future library volunteer, Parks and Rec, open space, whatever board or committee somebody volunteers for, I really implore you to treat them respectfully, because that's the way any organization will keep volunteers and will keep a healthy and active government and, on the local level. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anyone else on the non-hearing agenda? Yes.
I'm not sure if this is the right time, but I'm Karen Miller. I live on Houts Lane, and I'm a 26-year resident. I realize that the Board of Supervisors are going to approve the budget regardless of citizens' input, but I want to be on the record that I oppose the decrease in funding for our fire department. I have been coming to township meetings for over a year now and attending Upper Bald Eagle COG meetings and other municipal township meetings, and I am struck by how little support our fire company and ambulance service receives. Over and over, I have heard about roads and road maintenance, yet everyone balks at funding fire and ambulance services. Roads certainly are important to maintain, but so are our lives and property. No one knows when they may need fire or ambulance services. Just like every citizen in Halfmoon Township pays equally through taxes for roads and road maintenance. Every citizen in Halfmoon Township should be paying equally for fire and ambulance services. I respectfully request that you return the dedicated fire tax and institute an emergency service tax so our fire and ambulance companies can remain viable for the future of Halfmoon Township. Thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
I have a question, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Would you prefer comments on the fire company now or during the actual budget hearing?
Well, depends what your,
Comments on the fire company.
depends how your question is framed. If you're talking about the budget allocation, then that definitely ties into the budget hearing itself. If you're just saying, I like the chief or whatever, then that's a comment.
No, we'll go with the hearing.
Okay. All right. Yes.
I'm Donna Hughes, and I live at 3050 Marengo Road in this township. And I'm just going to make a very brief comment. I've been lobbying and advocating for emergency services for over a year now, and I just want to briefly say that my family has used services. I understand how important they are, and I hope that the board will consider making sure that all emergency services are fully funded to the point that they can do their jobs. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Please come up and state your...
Peggy, did you have something you wanted? Okay.
Oh. I didn't see her hand up.
My name's Liz Spicer, and I live in Port Matilda Borough, and I am here actually to talk about the fire company. On March 11th, there was an incident with my minor child at the fire hall. I reported this to leadership as per the bylaws, but nothing was done to investigate or address this matter. I ultimately contacted the Pennsylvania State Police because no one else would. The president, the safety officer, and the chief ignored everything. So I called the state police. Following an investigation into the allegations, the cops issued a citation for harassment against James, which he was a firefighter at the time. After a hearing on August 31st, James was found guilty by the magistrate Ellen Sinclair. It was only after the magistrate's hearing where James was found guilty of harassment did the fire company invoke their disciplinary process. James was terminated, but not until 7 months after the incident and the finding by the magistrate. Per the bylaws, rules, and regulations, he should have been suspended immediately, pending investigation, once the president and the chief had received the complaint. I had to spend money on getting a lawyer and fighting this myself. This is just one illustration of deeper problems within the company due to lack of luster leadership. We are all to have each other's backs and be one. We're far from that. We are divided in so many ways. Though my child was physically assaulted, my family and I were subject to retaliatory behavior and for lodging our complaint against James. I have had my gear pulled without notice. However, Adam hasn't been to as many meetings or trainings as I have, but his gear was still there hanging untouched. When I messaged September 5th, the chief about the discrepancy, I was ignored until October 15th, when I messaged him again. John finally did respond. While texting back and forth, I had said about my call volume, and he requested that I give him the dates and brief description of what I did on that call. To my knowledge, no one else has ever had to do this. I also explained many times to John as to why I stopped going to trainings and not running calls, which was due to James still being able to run, even after he hurt my daughter. John and I ended up then having a conversation at the door at the fire hall the night of the October 15th. He right away got me gear and a pager. I figured we had resolved these things and I would start running calls. On October 24th, I responded on IAR to a woodpile fire endangering a small building. While on that call, my husband and a few other firefighters, Derek was one of them, was standing there and James called the chief. John said, "I will not put up with the bullshit, don't show up." James got terminated on October 5th. I didn't say anything, I let this go. Said to my husband once we got home, "I hope this isn't going to turn into a problem that James shouldn't be even calling chief while we have a call." The very next night we had training at the fire hall. James sat with his wife at Brothers Pizza just watching the fire hall. John did nothing. James' stepdaughter was at training. She went to John and asked if he was going to talk to James because he hadn't at the time. This seemed like such a lack of leadership and professionalism. While I realize there are friendships that are formed within the company, to use official training time to discuss personal matters involving an individual no longer affiliated with the company was lacking professionalism. I once again stopped going to training and stepped away. I just want to note that I am a member in good standing who can run calls, but can't because of this. On November 6th, there was a lift assist. Again, James was sitting in the driveway on that call. I did not go on the call, but I am aware that James was there. November 7th, we had a hazardous conditions call. James showed up at this call as well. I again did not go. James then went, sat in Brothers Pizza parking lot, then left and met the chief at the chief's house. On November 8th, I sent Josh and John a message stating the fact I am uncomfortable with James showing up the way he has. John did not address this until November 14th. Josh did reply to me. The evening of the 14th of November, I attended a COG meeting. We had a call. My husband went on the call. James once again was on scene. After the call, my husband had spoke to John, who is the chief, about James, and John said he wasn't getting in the middle of it. He was letting this up to the executive board. I contacted my lawyer, and she advised me to contact the PSP. On November 15th, the cops told me that John is the chief. He has to be the one to contact them and put a stop to this. Yet John informed my husband he was avoiding his leadership responsibilities because he did not want to get in the middle of it. James was terminated for behavior that put a child at risk. He continues to show up at calls and sit outside the fire hall when he has no legitimate reason to be there. His actions are making other members of the company uncomfortable. Yet again, the leadership is refusing to act. This makes no sense. According to the bylaws, John took an oath. He hereby swore he will uphold the Constitution, the bylaws, and standard operating guidelines of the Port Matilda Fire Company. But he hasn't done this at all. More to the point, he refuses to do so unless and until he is forced to act by some exterior force. He has put me and my family in the line of danger. As a mandated reporter, he should have reported the allegations to the proper authorities regarding my daughter being injured by one of his firefighters. Not only did he not do that, he refused to engage in a disciplinary action until after an external entity found James guilty of harassment several months later. His actions and inactions raise a real question as to his leadership abilities to even his desire to lead this company. While I once again am able to run calls, I won't run them in fear of James hurting me. Yet the company leadership will not take steps to ensure active members in good standing feel safe so that they are able to do their job and help the community. Yet leadership will cater to a member who was dismissed for a blatant violation of the company's rules and regulations. I don't think this is very good leadership of our fire company. What they did to my daughter is not okay. It's not fair. There was just a guy who got in trouble at Bollesburg. I don't know if you guys seen that or not. He didn't touch the girl, thankfully, but they acted upon it immediately. My daughter was physically assaulted inside the fire company and nothing was done until I did something about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any,
Yep.
Hi, I'm Peggy Sue Majeski, and I live on Cornfield Lane. And I just wanted to point out that I believe that in addition to SCLO Library, there are several other libraries throughout the Center County area that are funded by Center County Federation of Libraries, is that what it is? Yeah. And I do believe that our board has agreed to fund that entity, which also additionally funds SCLO Library. So I don't think that we've not funded a library, and I think that if anybody really has trouble going to SCLO because it's been taken out of contract with us, then they should try going to Phillipsburg and seeing what a great little library that is. They have a Lego night. And then there's the Bollesburg, or the Bellefonte Library, and they also have the Pennsylvania Room, which is a really great genealogy library, particularly if you have relatives from Pennsylvania. I don't know about Asian relatives. But there are lots of other library services available in our area that people don't even know about because they're so focused on SCLO that they need to send all of our spare change to a giant entity that we only covered at less than 2% of their annual budget. That's all I wanted to say.
thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Tom Majeski. I don't have an agenda, I don't have anything printed, but I just wanted to say, since some people up here just getting on your case, I wanted to say what a good job most of the supervisors are doing, watching out for our tax money and being guardians of the tax increase. I've been to a few fire meetings, I've been to the COG meetings, and I have doubts about how the fire company is spending money or accounting for their money right now. So I appreciate Ron holding off until they get their accounting settled. And I just want to say thank you for watching out for our tax money.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, seeing no hands, we'll continue. Approval of the minutes. Get the minutes for November the 9th, 2023. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
A motion to approve from Mr. Cervello. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Beck. Any discussion by the board, comments, concerns? Hearing none, call for the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 5-0. Consent agenda item. This will be ratification of the bills list for the period of 11/04/23 to 11/17/2023. $11,982.63 in the general fund, open space fund amount of $50. Approval of the bills list for 11/18/2023 to 12/08/2023 in the amount of $59,026.98 in the general fund. The open space preservation fund in the amount of $1,113. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Savella. Do I hear a second? Okay, I'll give that one to Ms. Hartle. Any discussion by the board? Call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Approved 5-0. Resolution for the 2023-34 Agricultural Security Area Review Public Hearing and Action. I'm gonna-
So we have to
The
open the public hearing.
Agriculture Security Area Committee met on November 15th to complete the 7-year review of the agriculture security area within Halfmoon Township. There was a review of the properties currently in the ASA that was last updated in 2009, consisting of 72 properties and 5,511 acres. There were 14 new applications received for consideration, and after reviewing the property information for each new application, the committee concluded that all but one met the criteria. With the addition of the 13 new properties, 2 deletions, and retention of existing properties, there are now 89 properties and 5,830 acres covered under the ASA. The Planning Commission held their regular meeting on November 21st and recommended that the 13 properties be added to the ASA and that the retention of the 76 existing properties remain in that agriculture security area. So they recommend that we pass and include the additional security properties.
Okay. I'm going to open the public hearing here at 7:27 PM. Would anybody like to make a public statement regarding the agricultural security area amendment? Anyone? Sure.
What is an agricultural security?
I'll let our local experts handle that.
Local expert not, but did research, yes. The agriculture security areas protect farms from condemnation and unreasonably restrictive ordinances. So some of the ordinances that would be held in a development are kind of looked differently at for farm use.
One quick example, years ago, Dr. Dennis Thompson came in when I-99 was coming up through, and because we had so many properties in the ag security area, we were really not considered to have I-99 come up this side of the valley. So, would anybody like to make a comment or give testimony on the hearing? Seeing none, anybody from the board? Okay, I'm going to close the hearing at 7:28 PM. That was a tough one. I guess next thing to do is approve the resolution. Do I hear a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Savella. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Beck. Any discussion by the board? Call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Approved 5-0. Next up, Resolution 2023-35, Halfmoon Township 2024 Budget Public Hearing and Action. So I am going to open the hearing for the 2024 budget at 7:29 PM, and I know there's people here that want to talk. So who out there in the audience is first up? Mr. Merritt, if you'd come up here, please.
I'm Andy Marin, I live on James Hill Road. So obviously about the budget. On November 7th, the Halfmoon Township voters sent a message to this board. Enough. Enough the attack on common sense, enough the attack on literacy by defunding the library, enough of the attack on volunteer fire companies that are staffed by volunteers who spend countless hours training to save our lives. I can only hope the message was received. Tonight you will vote on a budget that decimates library funding. You will vote on a budget that genuinely may harm volunteers who serve us. The fire company budget was created by experts, professionals who know the cost to fund the necessary life-saving equipment and training. Chief Witherite is an expert. I trust him and his budget. His budget was submitted to another expert, a retired, nationally recognized firefighter, for review. And this expert said there was nothing in the budget that was out of order for a fire company of this size with the coverage area required by this fire company. Give me a second here. Instead, we had bureaucrats determining what the fire company should get with very little opportunity for the chief to make a case, as budget meetings and scheduled township meetings were canceled. By August 24th, the bureaucrats had decided that the coverage area was 38%, and therefore the township would only pay 38% of the budget requested. It does not work that way. When the tones go off and the firefighters respond, all of them respond, not just 38%. Fire companies do not just send 38% of the trucks and their crews. Instead, this board is funding another fire company that has never requested funding. We're going to talk about useful tax dollars. Alpha Fire Company has never requested funding from this township. I have that from Brett, and we're sending them $13,000. I challenge this board to look at chief, if the chief were here tonight, and tell them that they know better than him. They know what it takes to run a fire company. Oh, here we go.
Take your time.
They know what it means. They know how to run a fire company that requires multiple vehicles and dozens of volunteers. Tell him he does not know what he is doing. The good news is this: it's not too late. This board can vote to fully fund the requests of the experts. I did the math. I'm not good at math, and it's pretty simple. 3 cents a day per resident. 3 cents a day. We can fully fund the request. For a resident, it's about $10 a year. And that $30,000 gap is made up. The problem is solved. Even less if the board is willing to rescind the taxpayer handout to another fire company, which again has never requested funding. For one member tonight on this board, this will be your last vote. How do you want to be remembered? Trusting the professionals, experts, or the bureaucrats? $10 a year, 3 cents a day, and we're funded. And we're good. So I ask that you consider that tonight in your vote. Thank you.
Next, who's next? Firemen can also give testimony if they wish. They are residents of the Commonwealth.
Can I make a comment about this fire budget?
Please, come up and,
At the COG meeting, Ron Cervillo,
can you state your name?
my name's Tom Majeski.
Yeah, I know
Cornfield
we
Lane.
heard it before, but because it's an official hearing, so.
Ron Cervillo, at the COG meeting for the fire company, gave a detailed account of how much money Half Moon gave this year and how much money they gave for the last 5 years. And I forget the numbers, but I said, to myself, I'm going, we've doubled our budget in 5 years. Whatever the number was 5 years ago, we are now giving them twice as much a year. Now, that's not the whole point. What I was concerned about was then I asked the other members of the COG who were on the board up front. I said, Mr. Cervillo just gave our entire financial history for this fire company. How much are your township giving? What do you call it? Can't remember the name of the township guy.
I don't know who you're talking to.
Well, one of them was Reese.
There's 2 Reeses.
Yeah. Well, the different townships.
One's Taylor, Worth.
And one was
Houston.
Yeah, all different. I said, how much? Can I ask how much you're giving? And my reply was, we don't have those numbers. So it was just shocking that the onus of all this Half Moon Fire Company financial trouble falls upon our township, where the rest of the townships were just waving off their responsibility to give their numbers out. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you. If you got cell phones, please turn them off. Would anybody else like to give testimony on the budget? Yes, please, Ms. Perkins.
Tammy Perkins. Just for clarification, just so it's on the record, we put forth a funding formula. I think Brett had worked on that with the fire company, I think. What was the percentage that Half Moon agreed in terms of the funding formula that Half Moon came up with? What was Half Moon's percentage?
38%.
38%. Okay. And this that funding formula, I think, was proposed to the rest of the townships within the Upper Bald Eagle cog. And what is the current status of that? Have the other townships responded? Just clarification for the record so everybody's aware.
We can't speak for their budgets.
I'm not saying in terms of what they've approved, but has the funding formula that Half Moon Township came up with been proposed to the other townships, and has it been discussed with the other townships either individually or within the Upper Bald Eagle cog?
I have personally discussed individually with other supervisors.
It's been discussed at the COG too. It's been given to them.
Right, and
It's
has
been
there been any
shared with-
resolution with the other townships, either individually or again as a cog? Like, have they accepted it?
Have they accepted it? I don't know if they've accepted it, or I doubt it. But I haven't heard. I don't think they've I don't think they've approved their budget or had their meetings yet.
And we don't know if they're discussing accepting our funding
What-
formula
if
at
you
all,
want-
or come up with
well-
their own funding
Well,
formula?
I will tell you what two of the supervisors that I talked to in two different townships basically said. They are small townships and they don't have a lot of money, and they thought this would really crush them. They didn't necessarily say the word crush, but that's
Right.
to put it in the same context. You know, and I told Chief Witherite after the last township supervisors meeting, not really giving testimony, but I said, I know Half Moon will give the money that it promises. I'm not sure about the other townships. I'm not trying to put them down, but I don't know if they're gonna actually, you know, some of them may have to increase taxes just to cover the additional cost and expense. I think the borough, I think they were at or exceeding the level that we talked about.
Yeah, I think the
But
borough
the
stepped
other
up
three
at one of the
municipalities-
last meetings. I think the borough stepped
Yeah,
up, I
the other three
thought.
municipalities, I do not know.
Let me go over something here. There was an agreement in 2018 among all 5 municipalities with regard
I know,
to-
but I'm not referring to 2018. I'm referring to
Well,
the
let me
budget that was
finish.
just proposed.
Well,
So
let
I'm
me
not sure
finish.
how that relates to 2018.
Let me explain to you then. Okay, this was an agreement on distribution that began in 2018, but is projected out to 2028. This was an agreement that was made in 2018. I know that Worth, Houston, and Taylor are still following this formula. Port Matilda decided not to follow this formula. They voted to provide 2 mills of, their 2 mills to their appropriation to the fire company. If we were to keep with this, if we were to just continue with this funding distribution, and this was something that was, you can see a copy here,
Yep.
done by the treasurer, it's counter
Yep.
signed by us, and it's got accounting codes on it and everything, as of April 8th, 2022. If we were to follow this would have had us at an operating level for 2024, and you can look at that, I mean, 54,142.21, plus the loan, which I did look at the new loan amount. The old loan amount was 7194 for the year. The new loan amount is about 14,000. So if I were to follow this formula, we would be at roughly $68,600. Okay, of our contribution to this formula. Because the loan has changed, because we got rid of the old truck, got the new truck, we have a new loan now, and that loan amount's higher than the old loan. So the amount of money that we proposed for 2024 is 72,200. Okay, so that is more money than we would have been had we kept with this agreement, and it was an agreement. I checked with Brett to make sure it was an agreement. We would be paying $4,000 less, or 40. $4,200
Right,
less.
and for a budget that was put forth in 2018, how much did that account for cost of inflation?
It was all, the
Percentage
inflationary
growth.
factors were worked into
Because
it.
certainly, I mean, costs have
Well,
gone up extraordinary since 2018 for anything across the board. I mean, even, you know, your own personal household expenses are significantly more
we're
than
talking about
2018.
costs, but we're talking about budgeting. I mean, yes, costs have gone up, okay? But that's why inflationary factors are worked in to the formulas. Okay,
Right,
so-
and have the inflationary factors in this
My-
formula kept up to current standards for
Well,
today?
I don't know, maybe, maybe not.
I think it's only
However,
1%, Britt.
however, we're looking at, we looked at this year's budget. The 72.2 is a percent of the total budget that was agreed to between the discussions that John had with Brett. They came up with a number, $190,000. 38% was applied to that. That's $72,200. That's how that number was arrived at. And it was after extensive work that Brett performed to help John with the budget.
Right, and that was a budget based on 190,000. My understanding is that John had taken the suggestions from Brett and also spent more time working with others on the budget, and the budget number, the total budget number increased from 190,000 to,
Actually, it's
A
the
new
opposite.
number.
It was 250 and it went down to 190. That is true.
well, that is new information. I've
Well, I'm
never
not
heard
gonna
that.
argue.
Wait a minute. No comment from the
I'm
audience?
just telling you what happened.
Ms. Perkins is testifying at this point and.
Right, so
talking
my
to the board.
understanding was after Brett and John worked the budget, that it did go up to 250.
I don't-
So, but
I don't agree with that. I do not agree that that happened. I believe the reverse happened. They reviewed the line items, and there were line items that were questionable. So that was a discussion that Brett and John had,
Right,
and the
is
numbers
anybody
came
from
down
the fire
because of
company
those
here
line
can-
items.
That worked on the budget, able to talk about that? To get some clarification on that?
There was a budget.
Excuse me. What I'll do is have you come up and you can give testimony to that effect.
But the office has a copy of this.
Yeah, I have not seen that, and so, I mean, I would question it if it was created in 2018, because there's been a significant,
This was reviewed again in
Inflation.
2022.
okay.
See, the date's there, and the initials, the counter signatures are there, so,
Asking questions for the record?
okay?
But Ron, what chart you have is just, that's not based on the line item, the municipal contributions that they come up with. That was just like a starting point and just goes up 1% every year.
It's more than 1%.
Is it? That's what
But it's
told.
something that
Right,
that
that they
previous
had.
boards agreed to.
But that's why we
That's
moved
my
to looking
point.
at the municipal contribution line, which is 190. We're saying that the fire company budget is not, their whole budget isn't the 190. That was the line that came up for the municipal contributions. So we're doing 38% of that, so the other townships theoretically should cover the rest of it to hit the 190. But the 250 was,
And they chose not to do that.
well, and was this budget approved by the fire company board, and then was it also presented to the COG? Because the COG should be working then with the fire company to fund that municipal contribution line once that's agreed to, if it's
Well,
been presented.
Well, we have 5 municipalities here, so I can't speak for all 5 of them.
Right.
I can speak for one.
I think
And
there's
we
just a lot
made
of
our level
process
best
issues.
effort to properly fund the fire company.
I think there's process issues that definitely need to be addressed.
Well, I can tell you this much. If you look at the actual amounts that each of the municipal boards have proposed for 2024, I think it's approximately 169,000 total funding. We are paying 49.1% of the actual amount appropriated by all 5 municipalities. You could say that the other municipalities they don't have the money or whatever, okay, but the distribution was based on proper weighting. That formula wasn't just a guess. Brett didn't just guess. He came up with multiple factors. In fact, he used some of the similar weighting factors that other entities use. Center Region COG uses weighting factors. And there was a time when we all agreed to those weighting factors too. So if we're gonna talk about disparity tonight, that's a different story than what we had all talked about before. These formulas were accepted by all of us at one point. So,
Gonna turn it back over to the public here,
Okay.
and get the rest of their testimony. Anybody else like to talk? Or straighten out the record?
I can try a little bit. I don't want to talk a whole lot, but much of this was.
Can you please give your name to the-
I'm Dave Crow from Halfmoon, and I was a secretary of the fire company this year. The budget was brought over here, and Brett worked, he worked with the fire company. We certainly appreciate him working with John to get the budget organized. That budget's been, it was additive, it's been built over the years, but really wasn't organized in such a fashion that was amenable to, to the township and other municipalities. So Brett did a lot of work to help get it in order, and we certainly appreciate that. I think where it broke down is, they were working on a preliminary budget. John brought it back to the board, and they finalized the budget. All this was, I think all this was public information. I've seen the email traffic on it. There was a hearing some time ago. I'm losing track of the dates. Was it October or so? We had thought that there were going to be multiple budget hearings. Those working meetings that you guys had. John was unable to make the one meeting because there was literally a call, that very same time. But he didn't make it. He also went back to the board. We as a board identified a few things, some missing items, and the budget did increase a little bit. He provided that information back to Brett, but some of those decisions had already been made. So I believe what's happened is, there's at least a gap. So, we don't want to rehash, the fire tax and all the things that have changed, but, the fact of the matter is with, purchasing a fire truck at $400,000, or whatever the case may be, that's a major purchase, one that is going to cost over the years. So it's not just a matter of the operating budget, but, without having the fire tax and being able to build that capital reserve, it will become unsustainable over the years. We don't have to solve that all now, but between Halfmoon and the other municipalities, we do have to recognize that, it won't be the engine rescue, but probably the engine tanker, at another, $500,000 or $1 million or whatever it will be in 8 to 10 years. We need to plan for that. So, again, we appreciate being able to work with Halfmoon. It's the largest largest of the COG municipalities, largest tax base and everything. We shouldn't have to carry the whole load, but we do hope that Halfmoon will continue to be a leader and not a follower on this. So, thank you.
You said that the fire company board did approve a budget that contained a particular municipal shares line item or municipal contribution line item. Do you remember when the budget that they approved, what was that municipal contribution line item?
Like the Halfmoon line item?
No, it should have just been municipal contributions, because it was the 190 or the 250.
Yeah, I think the original, the follow-up number was closer to the 250, as I recall.
The 250, yeah.
Yeah,
'cause that-
yeah.
Okay.
And I think that was the confusion. And
Yeah, 'cause then
I don't think the board had an opportunity to accept that. I think, just kind of went with the number. The way I understand it, you kind of went with the number you had and didn't really revisit it. So,
Yeah, because the 250, our contribution would have been 95,000.
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Hughes, you're up. And then I'll get you in the back there after Mr. Hughes.
My name's Dan Hughes. Last spring, I decided to volunteer for the fire department. Obviously, I'm not a fireman, so what I did was volunteer for fundraising and things like that. I've gone to about 6 bingo meetings, and I was involved in the raffle and all that. But I just wanted to point out that being a volunteer is not necessarily fun. for a bingo meeting, people show up around 4 o'clock and they don't get home till after 10, just to earn a little bit of money, maybe $1,000. The raffle was 12 hours, all those people volunteering to try to raise some money for the fire company. So I just wanted to point out that these are volunteers that are also responding to fires and doing all the other types of work that are necessary to run this fire company. One thing that really disturbed me was during the raffle, there was no supervisors from this township that came and to thank the volunteers. And each of the volunteers had staff t-shirts on. There was not a single supervisor from this township at that raffle. Keith Reese was there for a short period of time, and Mark Belinda was there for a short period of time. But as far as that, I saw no supervisors.
Thank you. You change your mind? Anybody else would like to come out? Yes, Ms. Miller.
I would just like to point out
Can
too
you
that not
state
only
your name again for the...
Karen Miller, House Lane.
Thank you.
I would just like to point out too that the fire company not only responds to fire calls, but they also assist the ambulance company and responds to ambulance calls too. And it's very important. These, again, are all volunteers. These people work full-time jobs to support their families, and they are giving up their time to save our lives and our property. And it's, I find, appalling the way that this Board of Supervisors has treated them, both the ambulance company and the fire company, and especially Chief Witherite. That's all I have to say.
Good. Anybody else? Anyone? All right, I'm going to close the hearing at 7:52. Let me see here. This will be Resolution 2023-35, which is the budget. Do I hear a motion to approve or amend or change the budget?
I move to approve.
A motion to approve. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Moved and second. Any discussion by the board?
Mr. Chair,
Yes?
what is the process if we amended, I guess to me, there's just that discrepancy between the 190 and the 250, and I know I read through Chief Witherite's emails about what the difference was in that, and our contribution to fund that, like I said, would be 95,000, so we're talking, what, 23,000 more.
At the 38%.
At the 38%, right. Is that something,
We can amend the budget down, but we can't increase it at this point on a particular line item.
I think we can by 25%.
Well, you could change something from one line item to another line item.
No, Brett said we had a leeway of 25% per line item.
Right.
So we could increase that 72,000 up
You
as
could.
far as 25% higher.
Yep. If you take it from something else.
I don't think we have to take, do we? I don't think we have to take it from something
Well, you
else.
have to have it from somewhere, because we have a set figure for revenue coming in, whether it's taken from unencumbered funds or
Right.
someplace, but it'd have to be amended. So, first of all, I'd like to just put something out there. I do agree that maybe the fire company doesn't have as much money as they think they need to operate, but there are other issues that are involved with this. Issues the public just generally doesn't see. Some of it is behind the scenes problems and issues such as the lady here tonight. I've known about that since the incident happened. And some of us were hoping that would have been settled and taken care of in a proper manner. The chief, the fire chief, does have my phone number. He and I have had numerous conversations. It would have been better had he come in to talk to Brett with his full set of numbers up front, and it would have helped everybody plan, but we didn't get that. We got the $190,000 value. And I know Mr. Merritt said that we gave money to the Center or Alpha Fire Company, and they've never requested anything, but they have been number one to our township numerous times. And I don't really think it's fair. I will say their fire service has been exemplary in coming out and assisting both Port Matilda and Warriors Mark fire companies. And much as I hate to, I don't like to throw money away. That's why I'm a stingy stinker that I am. But, there's a fire company that has come out without complaint and done good work for the citizens of this community. And we've had brush fires in the past out in the game lands, and we just found out this year that Alpha actually covers a portion of Halfmoon Township. And Warriors Mark, I know they don't come down begging for cash, but they are a well-run fire company. They do not seem to have, I'm sure they have internal strife, but they always seem to be able to manage on whatever, and they have tremendous community support. I wish Port Matilda had that support from the community, but they apparently don't have as much as they should have. And I know there's a lot of people out here that are just tremendous Port Matilda Fire Company fans. And I don't want to see, I told the chief, I don't want to see him go under. But in my personal opinion, and this is just my opinion, that if we get partway through the year and the fire company has a problem, it doesn't mean that the township can't assist. If the wheels fall off the truck and they need money for the wheels, that doesn't mean we can't kick in to do something to help them out. I don't think anybody here is that rigid. So, it's not that they're going to have or be starved out or anything like that, but there's some internal problems. I think they need to get those in order. They need to get more active firemen. They're very limited. And I hate to put you on the stick, but how many active firemen do they have right now that are actually participating, that run on the trucks? Yeah, Derek.
There's 7.
7. They have 7 guys who run on those trucks. And the numbers have been going down, I take it, not up. So I don't mean to put you on the spot, Derek, because Derek's a volunteer in our community, as well as a township employee, but he's in the fire company. So I'm just afraid that they are diminishing over there, and we're throwing a lot of money at something and we're not necessarily getting the service we deserve. I'm not saying they're not good, because I know it's terrible when you got to get out of bed in the middle. I hear that siren going off. I hear Warriors Mark going off at 2, 3 in the morning. I think those guys get out of there and they go. But I'm not going to turn my back on the fire company, but maybe their budget just isn't going to be the full set of numbers right now, but that doesn't mean we can't assist with projects and some other items as well at a later date. So that's just my opinion. I just wanted to get it out there for the public, because I think sometimes, you hear what you hear on the internet, but it's not necessarily the whole story, as this lady brought out this evening earlier on. So,
Mr. Chair,
yes.
if I may, I have a motion and it's been seconded.
Yep.
I'll just say this, and I said this at the last Upper Bald Eagle Half Moon COG meeting. The fire company started with a fund balance of 129 and some odd dollars, roughly $130,000, $129,600 and some odd dollars at the beginning of this year. They end this year at about $100,000 spent. At the end of 2022, they had a surplus. It's in the 990 form. The year before that, they had a surplus. J.D. Reese, who's the treasurer of the COG, advised them to put the money into capital reserves. That never happened. This year, the total appropriation, I believe, from all 5 municipalities is about $167,000 or $169,000. That's the total actual appropriation, proposed appropriations from all 5 municipalities. We represent 49.1% of that total. That is $30,000 more than they started the year with at the beginning of this year. So if we want to talk about capital reserves, the best way talk about that is to take the money that you have in surplus, put it in your capital reserves and build up the capital reserves. And couple that with any spare money that's in the fundraising fund as well. And you couple them together and you build up your capital reserves. In terms of fire trucks, the municipalities are making those loan payments. Okay, I just want to point that out. Number two, if you have a problem with a vehicle, you don't pay cash for new fire trucks. That's sort of unheard of. But you can, in fact, borrow money to buy these things. And like you said before, if there's an unforeseen issue that nobody saw coming, something that nobody expected, there's nothing that says that 5 municipal boards can't put their heads together and help address that need that occurs. That happened with the EMS this year. Okay, a lot of things happened with the EMS. There's a sea change between where we were in December of last year, where we are this December. In terms of budget appropriation, they requested a certain amount. I think it was roughly $42,000 of our share of municipal funding. We gave them $45,000. So we are, contrary to what some people may believe or want to believe, we are providing funding, substantial funding. This is not unsubstantial funding. The other thing I want to point out with regard to the fire company is we appropriated an additional money, $18,750 to Port Matilda. It was part of $25,000 total. The other 25% went to Warriors Mark, but the lion's share of it went to Port Matilda because they have the largest coverage area. So, and that appropriation, that allocation just occurred in November. So $18,750 was just given to them last month. So we are providing funding. And with that, I'll close by saying I have a motion on the table, and it's been seconded, so I call for a vote.
All right, call for the question. All those in favor of approving the budget under the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Approved 5-0. Next up, real estate tax levy for 2024. This is going to keep the real estate taxes and all taxes for the township the same as 2023, which is this year. Do I hear a motion to approve resolution 2023-36?
Move to approve.
Do I hear a second? Second. Moved and seconded. Any discussion by the board? Call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Approved 5-0. Next up, resolution 2023-37, transfer from general fund to the capital reserve fund. This is to balance out our budget.
And to provide proper capital reserves.
Yeah, provide proper capital reserve.
It's approximately, was it 150,000?
You can read it if you want.
I don't have it in front of me.
So, I can speak to this. Staff is requesting permission to transfer up to 150,000, which would happen, the 29th of December, depending on needs of township budget until that point.
Yep.
I move to approve.
Got a motion to approve by Mr. Savella. Do I have a second? Seconded by Ms. Hartle. Any other discussion by the board? Call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, 5-0 approved. Next up, award bituminous and aggregate bids for fiscal year 2024.
Okay,
Chuck, I'll move that to you.
we recently opened the materials bid for 2024. Very surprised with how the bids came back, very thrilled with how the bids came back. Looking at some substantial savings here for next year. So, and they are kind of all over the place with different suppliers. So there was a lot of suppliers came forward this year, and a lot of them are being extremely competitive. So staff is requesting that the board approves individual materials be awarded to the lowest bidder, and those can be
Can you give two examples of that for the public?
Absolutely. So I wrote down our 2023 budget year bid 2RC, which is currently at $19.46 per ton delivered. Just to give an idea of what next year comes in at, is at $12 a ton delivered. So very substantial savings on a whole load there. New Enterprise Stone and Lime out of, the plant would come out of Tyrone, was awarded a large number of those. Glen Hall Beggars would have our asphalt for next year for pickup, and New Enterprise delivered. So, like I said, it's going to be interesting next year trying for me to keep track of where all these come from, but very happy with very competitive bids, which historically I haven't seen that. Just kind of going back through some of the bid tabs throughout the last few years. We definitely have not gotten great numbers.
Okay, do I hear a motion to approve the bids
So
for the
pricing-
lowest category in each line item?
Move to approve.
And a motion from Mr. Cervella. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Beck. Any discussion by the board?
What you're saying is the trend, the pricing has actually gone down from where it was past couple of years.
It has. I'm not sure if that is going to be trending that way, or if it's because more companies are becoming, a lot more competitive, trying to pull that market in.
Okay.
But either way, it benefits the township, so
Yeah.
it's fantastic.
Yep.
All right, call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Approved, 5-0. Next up, Public Works Department line item budget transfer. Chuck, since you're Public Works.
Okay. Yep. So, all right. So, keeping with the same theme here, due to those numbers coming back extremely well for next year, and due to some savings that we've had this year in a couple of our line items, I am asking the board to transfer $7,000 from the 43825 line item, which is road maintenance repairs, to the 43024 line item for Public Works general operating supplies for the purchase of concrete bin blocks. And what this would allow us to do is provide a better storage area to where we can really take advantage of some of these prices, and hopefully continuing better prices as we move on. But as we find, some really great prices on materials, we can stockpile them and be able to save money throughout the years.
Move to approve.
A motion to approve by Mr. Cervella. Do I hear a second? Second. Seconded by Ms. Hartle. Any discussion by the board? Call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none. The ayes have it, 5-0. Okay, township reports. Anybody got anything to add on their reports for treasurer, secretary, or public works? And unfortunately, the treasurer and secretary are not able to be here tonight. Maybe fortunate for us, but
Not fortunate for me, but I do not have anything to add unless there's any questions.
anybody got anything to add to their authority and committee reports?
Nope. They're already included
Yep.
in.
Well, I didn't know if
to
anybody
the-
had anything
yeah.
else. Some emergency came up. All right, call for anybody move to adjourn.
So move.
A motion to adjourn. Do I hear a second? Second. Moving seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's it.